going on, ladies and gentlemen? Lantern here with SiR Gaming, and today we're going to be doing something just a little bit different than what we normally do. Today, we're going to be starting a section called the Inbox, and what the Inbox is it's a chance for basically gaming community discussion. Now, you can send your questions if you have any. You can simply message us to us on the on our YouTube channel page, and we'll use those questions for future editions of the Inbox. Now our first question comes in from Mr. Epic Aussie, and he writes, I use the build found here and noticed the dual pistol no longer adds might, but defense and toughness. Instead, I am wondering what skills can I use to get higher crits and more DPS. Well, as a DPS character myself, I'm always interested in finding ways for me to improve my DPS and improve my maximum damage potential. And basically what it's going to boil down to is having the right amount of skill points and putting those skill points where they are needed to go. Now, if you look at your trees, specifically the weapons trees, you will see that some of them do in fact give you, towards the end at the bottom, for example, bow. Well, bow is going to give, at the bottom, is going to give might. Now might is going to boost the power of your powers and basically make your powers do more damage. The ones that are going to give, the weapons that are going to give you more might are going to be bows, one-handed, and hand blasters. Now, if you're like me and you want to do the maximum DPS, that's going to involve you getting crits. And the ones that are going to give you more crits are going to be two-handed, staff, and rifle. So if we use rifle for an example and we go down all the way to the bottom, we can see that there is 3 skill points which are going to permanently increase your critical attack chance by 1% per point. Now, I did leave out one-handed in this one. However, one-handed does have, if you go 3 down, you'll notice that Flurry has plus 1% critical attack chance. If you go to the right of that one, and I believe that this is the only tree that does this, there's an ability that's also going to give you another permanent increase of plus 1 critical attack chance. Now, the weapon trees that are going to give you bonuses to your criticals are going to be martial arts, brawling, and then both dual weapons, so dual pistol and dual wield. So if we use dual pistol for an example, and we go all the way to the bottom, we will see that it permanently increases your statistics of critical attack damage by 4% per rank. Now, that's 12%, so if you do all 4 of them, you will have a maximum critical, additional critical attack chance of 48% if you finish all your trees. Now, I have 84 skill points, and I have gone into and put every single one of them into DPS. However, what I find is that the maximum of your damage is going to come from weapons. So I primarily focus on precision. So if we look at my precision, it's currently 289, which is a relatively decent precision. Precision, basically every 10 is going to increase your DPS by a factor of 1. So 289 is an additional 28.9 DPS on top of whatever your weapon DPS. I currently use martial arts. I have 113.1 DPS on my weapon, so you add additional 28 with the precision, and that's what you get. I'm not very good at math, but hey, somebody else, that's what other people are for. Our second question comes from Mr. Killa Justin, and he writes, Hi, I'm going to make Sorcery DPS. I like to get in close, but I've been reading range is better, either a bow or a rifle. Also, what should my loadout be? I've been struggling to figure out what the best DPS is. So should I get in close or range? It's a good question, Mr. Killa Justin. Personally, as you've already seen, I am a martial arts person, and I like to get in close. I like to do DPS. I like to punch someone's face in. And with martial arts, You can really do that. You can do an amazing amount of damage. However, there does come a point where you're going to run into, particularly in PvP, where you're going to have that little healer in the background who is going to be awfully difficult to get to. Well, one of the abilities that you can throw on your bar, if you're if you go through the Destiny tree of the Sorcery line, and you have to get it before you can get other things, happens to be Shared Fate. So what Shared Fate is going to do is it's basically going to pull enemies towards you, and it's an AoE conical effect. What that effect is going to do is literally your target and any target surrounding your target yank them right to you. So instead of you having to get in close, particularly in PvP, if you're in combat, you notice the healer in the background, and it's going to be difficult for you to get to him because you when you're in combat you walk and fly or super speed an awful lot slower than you do if you're not in combat. It's going to make it very difficult for you to get to them. So what you can use, if you're in range or if you can get in range of using it, is Shared Fate to yank them right to you, and that way you don't have to come to them, but they certainly can come to you. Some other good things that if you're going sorcery in the Destiny line, that are very good to have on your bar. As you can see, my current loadout is Shared Fate, Final Ruin, Vengeance, Weapon of Destiny, Baleful Transmogrification, and Circle of Protection. I don't use Final Ruin that much anymore in PvP because ever since the changes with the first patch where they took it from being instant cast to being a 1.5 cast, I don't use it in PvP that much anymore. However, I will say this: if your target is under the 30% hit points, excuse me, 35% hit points. It will do front-loaded damage and it will do back-loaded damage. So your front-loaded damage, which is a smaller hit than the back-loaded damage, that first hit will do an awful lot more than, let's say, Vengeance, for example. I do use Vengeance. The karma interaction is pretty well. If you have an enemy with bad karma, which can be inflicted by other Destiny powers, and you use Vengeance on them, well, that can turn them into a little dog that runs around and doesn't do a whole lot. Weapon of Destiny, which is number 4 on my trees, is really, really an amazing power, and its description reads that it magically imbues your weapons with additional damage. And that damage, which is dependent upon your might, which you can get from bows, one-handed, and the hand blaster trees down at the bottom, will do considerable damage in PvE or PvP. Basically, if you're in the Destiny tree, as a DPS, you're going to want to maximize your damage, and Weapon of Destiny will definitely help you out with that. We're going to skip Baleful Transmogrification for now, but we're moving on to Circle of Protection. What Circle of Protection does is it puts a circle on the ground, and while you're in the damage roll, that circle, anybody that's in it, any enemies that are in it, will start taking ticks of damage. And those ticks of damage, they're not a lot, and the damage is shared. However, any chance you get to do damage to an enemy, you should definitely take. And Circle of Protection, the ticks do add up. Definitely worthwhile, worth the skill point. Baleful Transmogrification. Baleful Transmogrification is going to be 100% supercharged. It basically reads that it curses enemies with transmogrifications that only the strongest can endure. Now, like I said, it is 100% supercharge, and it does take a while to build up 100% supercharge, but it is well worth it. Very similar to Circle of Protection in the fact that it puts a circle on the ground. Anybody standing in that circle will take significant amount of damage for the duration that they stand in that circle. Now, the circle doesn't last long, and you definitely can walk out of it. But while you put that circle on the ground, it's not listed here underneath the description of the power. However, if you do have enemies with bad karma on there, on them, which I believe Baleful Transmogrification puts bad karma on them anyway, you will start taking healing ticks. And depending on the amount of healing ticks, or excuse me, depending on the amount of enemies that are in the circle, the healing can be quite substantial. Now, each tick is anywhere from 5 to 8, but when you have quite a few enemies in there, 5 to 8 on the ticks adds up quite a bit. Another question that was not asked in a message but was asked on our channel page was, do you think that the DCUO is worth paying for? Well, an answer to that, I don't have an answer to that. However, I will give you the yes and no scenarios. Yes, it is kind of nice if you do pay for it because you get immediate access to your escrow. And basically, if you're a free-to-play or a premium subscriber, you're always going to have this escrow, and the maximum amount of cash that you can have is $2,000. Well, $2,000 is great unless you plan on raiding, and because, well, let's face it, in raids, you die. It happens, even to the best of us. And when you die enough, eventually your gear is going to take damage. At a certain point, $2,000 is not going to be enough. So to have immediate access to your escrow and an unlimited amount of cash available to you at any given time, yes, it is great to pay for. However, what I have found and what I've started to do myself, because I do no longer want to pay for the game, is I've started to do Legends PvP and normal PvP an awful lot. And at the nightclubs for villains and heroes, you can pick up bounty quests to kill 5 villains or 5 heroes. Now these villains are going to need to be, villains or heroes, whichever opposite faction you are going to need to be level 30 just like you. And to complete that, you get 2 Soda Colas. Now you can sell these Soda Cola Extremes at a rate half of what you would normally purchase them for. Well, they're free to get in PvP. Every time you complete the bounty, you get 2. So what I've started to do is I've just started to stack up on these, and when I do have to repair, if I have a cash balance of $2,000, I'll use that. But if I have no cash balance, instead of spending a couple bucks to get money out of my escrow through the Station Cast store, I'll simply sell a stack of Soda Cola Extremes, maybe 1 or 2 stacks. Now this does mean that you will have to put an additional amount of time into PvPing if you choose to go the free-to-play route and looking for ways to kind of get around that cash $2,000 cash limit that you're going to get. Another great thing is, if you notice here, my inventory is rather full, and that's because I've got a lot of PvP stuff in there and stuff I should get rid of. But another thing you can do, all your greens and your blues that you would normally sell, if you start running out of inventory space and bank space, is you can simply mail them to an alt. Just mail them to an alt, or have an alt mail them to you, and then just keep them in your inbox. They will stay there for, I believe, 30 days. So if you collect a ton of Soda Colas, or if you collect a ton of items, blues and greens, and you mail them to yourself, well, you've got a lot of time to use those, to sell those, and you can sell them at your convenience when you need to. Anyway, if you have questions or if you want to see anything, feel free and send us a private message on our YouTube channel page, which is youtube.com/SiR Gaming Team, and we'll use your questions for future editions of the Inbox. Anyway, this has been Lantern, signing off.